So another example I want to work in our section 6.4 is this last example, which is example 8. I'm trying to cover up some previous markings I had in here so we can see them fresh. I'm not doing too good of a job of it, but we're trying. And so it says using a graph to find an equation. So this whole chapter or whole section, you've been going one direction to take an equation and make it into a graph. And now you saw a video where we're going to take the graph and make it into an equation. And I wanted to go ahead and jump in and play around with example 9. And so here we go. And so when I'm looking at this graph, I'm going to ask the same questions I asked in example 5. What kind of direction and what kind of type? Is this a sine or cosine? And is it starting normally, or is it going in the opposite direction? And when we look at this, if it's starting at 0, that is sine-ish. And we can shift it and make it cosine, but again, we want to be lazy. And so if it is a sine and it's not going up, then this tells us the type is going to be a sine, but the direction is it's heading down first and not up first like normal or the regular sine. So with that in mind, our direction is going to be that we are heading down first, so it's going to be a negative, and the type is going to be a sine. I can't keep covering all this up. Anyway, it's there. I'm still going to try. And so what we're looking at is our y is going to be negative something, sine, and we'll have something going on in the middle of all of this. So the amplitude, let's go ahead and play with that. Even though it is going down first, it's going down 2, and look, it's going up 2. So that tells us it's going to be a negative 2. The 2 tells us the amplitude from the middle to the bottom and middle to the highest point. The negative tells us we're going to go down first on our type, which is going to be sine graph. So the t is the weirdest one. And so t means period. T means how long does it take for the cycle to repeat itself. And if we start here at 0, it goes down back to 0 and then up back to 0. So the time frame, how long does it take to repeat, is called a 4. Not a 4 pi, not a 2 pi, just a flat 4. So my period is 4. But I have a formula for period. And my formula for period is, when I'm dealing with sine or cosine, secant, cosecant, is I have 2 pi over omega. That is what actually equals 4. 2 pi over omega. So I got all this stuff going on, but if I've got 2 pi over omega, that equals my 4. What I need to know is what is my omega, because something's going to need to go in here with my x. And so looking right here, I can multiply, I can do, let me go ahead and go this way. Since I have got a proportion, I'm going to go ahead and state that my 4 omega equals my 2 pi. Remember, I'm trying to figure out what is my omega, so I can put it right there. And when I divide by 4, my omega is worth a half of a pi. And so that is what goes in for omega. And I think we've covered it. We're not doing anything unusual inside of here where we're going to be shifting left to right. We're not doing anything unusual, and it's not unusual, but we have nothing going on out here except a plus 0. So we're not shifting vertical up or down. So no left or right or up or down shifting, just plain what you see is what you get. We talked about the direction. It headed down first. It is a sine graph. We talked about the amplitude was straightforward. The weirdest thing we had to work around, noodle around, figure out what is that omega. And we started by saying that the period goes every 4. And I can even shift it this way. That's going to be 4 spaces to get from the highest point back to the highest point. Either way, it's 4 spaces, and I played around with, right here, that my 2 pi over omega is worth 4. I treated this as a proportion. I did my cross multiplication, divided off, and found my omega. And so what we think is, I'm going to put it down here like this, we think that our y equals negative 2 sine pi over 2x. And if you look here, we match what they also think our equation should be based on the graph that we are given. Again, this is section 6.4, and we just did example 9.